Why, hello there. Thanks for stopping by. You're about to check out an episode of the Freddie and Alyssa Show. But before you do, I wanted to remind you to subscribe to the channel. This way you don't miss any future videos that are coming. You can just click the link below. Boom, subscribe. You'll be all set. Now enjoy the episode. We are live from the depths of Antarctica.
Why did you think it's so cold?
I don't know. I just woke up today. It's cold. We never put the heat on, but now...
Because sometimes when you put the heat on, it just gets a little too warm, and then I feel like I can't breathe. Yeah. But last night, going to bed, I was freezing. But right now, I feel good. You can't see under here, but it's like a little dress, like a sweater dress.
My robe is keeping me warm.
What do you got on? Where'd you get that robe?
I think your mom bought it for us, didn't she?
Christmas. How's it feel?
It's nice.
You like it?
Yeah. I was just a little chilly. We had to get what we say back in Ohio. Because we would keep our thermostat on, like... I don't know what it was, but we always used to have winter rules, which is always having socks and like pajamas on, because if you run the heat too much, it's expensive.
Of course.
So, but we would turn it on every now and then just to get the chill out of the house. And that's what I felt today. But it's weird that we put it up to 70 and it's still chilly, but I think it's just because of the way the setup is this place. It's so wide, it just takes time.
I think it feels nice.
But anyway, we can't complain, because what is the temperature? Let me check my fancy watch.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, it's 60 and sunny outside right now.
60 and sunny. Are you going to wear this outside?
No.
Let me grab this little guy. Ben.
You going to hold him?
Yeah.
Every time we set him on the couch, he thinks it's like his licking session. But then he gets tired and then goes sleeps.
Yeah.
So now he's going to be up the whole time.
You know, his schedule is kind of crazy because he's very predictable. We know every morning that he wants down, he wants to go outside, get his TREAT, then he's going to have his breakfast. Then after that, he's going to get set up on the couch, lick for like 5 minutes, and then he naps all day.
Until we bring him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that'll be good, though. I can't wait till we get our walk in and keep that going.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. We've been on the walking train lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful out with that park.
Yeah. And it's just an easier way. This way I can keep, working on the weight. Now that I'm like, what's today? The 12th? I'm 12 days in. So you kind of create a new habit.
Yeah.
Where I don't even have I don't really want bad food. Like I would never eat like McDonald's right now.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You're not like craving it. I love their coffee though.
Oh, they're the best. They actually have better coffee grade-wise than Starbucks.
I know. And I love the creamer they have at coffee. Remember that was my new thing for a while?
Yeah, they have a really
take
good...
all the creamers and
You want to hear something interesting I learned about McDonald's? And I'm just starting to see so many of these things take place as I get older, and I'm like starting to learn more about how things work. Back in the day, they did a marketing campaign when they were switching from cash to credit cards. Uh-huh. So whenever that was, I don't know when that happened in the world where everyone kind of moved from cash to credit cards, and now I feel like no one has cash. But they marketed it as pay with your credit card. It's more convenient. It's blah, 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 blah. But when you actually go into it, is that when you deal only with cash, there was a lot more stealing going on throughout all their McDonald's, and I think that was one of the reasons. But the biggest reason is that they ran the numbers, and people on average would spend 12% more money if paying with a credit card than if they paid with cash. So, but they didn't want to come out and say, oh, we don't want people stealing cash, and we want you to spend 12% more. Huh. It's easier to market and say, hey, everyone, it's way more convenient to use your credit card.
Right.
And I'm sure they're marketing these days when they have the self-serving kiosks now. It's probably like, it's so much easier, get what you want, it's quicker, it's more convenient. It's like, no, you probably cut 10,000 workers. And so nothing against McDonald's, that's just business, but it's...
Do you think that that's the same when it comes to debit and credit cards?
Yes.
So you really think people spend more on their debit?
100%.
I mean, that would make sense.
No, there was an actual test studied where they, when you spend actual cash, the pain sensor in your brain lights up in an MRI, spending cash as if, like it hurts more to spend cash than a credit card.
Because it's gone.
Yep.
Card, you're just like, oh, hey, and you get it back.
Yeah.
Cash, you're getting rid of it, and then...
For some reason, because even when we got cash for Christmas, I don't feel pain, but whatever that science thing they did was, I don't remember it.
You were more careful with spending it, I feel. Like you had it in the drawer for like a week. You didn't want to like mess with it.
But once we went and bought groceries with it, you feel different than swiping.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Gosh,
So that's really
brain's
interesting.
Fascinating how all of that works.
And now that these, like, I think, is it Apple? They have a credit card.
I think so. It's coming out, right?
I think the tech now is getting into credit cards, and they're giving perks. And remember, I heard the same thing about Amazon, that they're going to start lending. There's going to be a branch about lending money for homes, becoming a lender.
Oh, yeah.
But if you get it through them, they're going to give you, like, depending on how much you lend or they lend you, they're going to give you credit for the Amazon store for shopping and everything. So, but you're spending the money in their store.
Of course.
And I should fact check all this stuff because I just feel like I think
I've
how
heard
would I
that
make
too,
that
though.
up? Yeah,
No, you
I think
didn't.
that's true. But they're branching off in so many different directions. They got their studio. Apple's got the credit card. But all these companies need other avenues to continue to spend all that money to get the tax write-offs, and that's why they pay hardly no tax. I don't think they pay any tax federally because they're reinvesting, and that's how capitalism works. But that's like the big thing about the big techs that are generating all this revenue, but they keep branching out. But they're making our lives more convenient.
Very much so.
I don't want to run to the mall when I can have Amazon, if I order by noon, get something by 8 p.m. So
that's amazing. And eventually, I guarantee you it's going to be you can get any product within an hour. They'll look back to now and be like, you guys waited 2 days? You waited a day? It's going to be crazy.
I think if drones, I think maybe when they start, I don't see that though. Like they always show like future robots, and they'll show like FedEx. I think there's a lot of these companies with shipping that they're having like robots that are like getting out of the cars and delivering stuff, and drones. I just don't see,
crazy.
As much as I'm futuristic, I'm like there's going to be
It's a
bunch of
long way
drones and robots flying around and walking around delivering stuff.
I mean, I think like 2050, yeah.
Yeah, maybe slowly we'll get
it's
used
gonna
to
take
it.
time. It's not going to be 5 years from now, by any means. I mean, there might be
Some
but
that
it's
do
not.
it. Yeah, so
So are they going to name the drones? Am I going to be like, hey, Betty?
Oh, and it talks to you?
Yeah, probably.
Hey, tell Freddie he's doing great on his steps.
Oh my gosh.
What?
How do you know? We track everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So we'll see, but I'm open to all of it. And then even with Tesla, like I read that article that eventually you're going to be able to actually have set your car up when you're at work for 8 hours. You can park your car and then on your app turn on like the Uber service for Tesla, and your car will go out and pick up people and drive them places and then return to you by work. But you made,
Oh, you're making money.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's because you'll make, whatever you're going to make. But I think they said that the average person with the Tesla, if that were ever to come into effect, would generate an extra $30,000 a year of income when you're just at work for those 8 hours or not, 40 hours a week if it's
That's
driving.
insane. Well, so people probably do that when they're sleeping. Make money while you're sleeping.
Or probably that too.
You know?
And the issue would be the a-holes who,
Abuse it.
yeah, of who, like, are they going to leave stuff in the car or to damage
Well, I was going
it?
to say, do you really want strangers, or if it is at night and people are out and they're throwing up in your car, is your car going to go get itself cleaned?
I don't know.
Who knows? We don't know.
But even the idea that we would get into strangers' cars or that parents would feel comfortable.
That too.
Remember Gary Vee said that. He's like, the fact that people are comfortable with their 14-year-old daughter getting into strangers' cars is why he never invested back in the day. He's like, people won't do that, but people feel more safe now. And then they have those apps where you can hold your finger in case something happens.
On paper, it sounded horrible. And there still is some sketchy stuff that happens. I've read a lot of stories, but I feel a lot of the sketchy stuff that happens is late at night. So just kind of being aware with anything you do of your surroundings, of, maybe not traveling at 2 a.m. if you're single and alone, especially, like if you're female, like I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Just never know what could happen. Because I've read some crazy stories of bad things that have happened with Ubers, but I suppose it's anything. Just be aware.
There's always that.
But they have those apps you were talking about now, and they can track everything, and
yeah, there's always that. No matter what you do, you can always argue that there's going to be
The bad seeds in anything.
1 to 2 to 3% of bad seeds in anything you do. No matter what you open, no matter what career, there's going to be scams and crime and disgenuine people, and you have to
spoil the whole bunch.
Yeah, it's like even the whole bird scooters that are all around Hollywood and LA, and most people take care of it. You park it where you're supposed to. You take the picture. You don't abuse it. And then others you see that are all laying on the floor. I mean, did the wind blow it over? Did someone knock it over and not pick it up? People are abusing those things on purpose and think it's funny, and but they probably have already thought of that. They're like, well, we're going to end up spending 1% of our profits on people who are breaking these on purpose or by accident.
But I feel too that what are they called? The birds?
There's a bunch now, but I think the bird's the most popular, maybe.
They're geared more towards a younger demo, which unfortunately I feel a younger demo would probably not take care of it, versus if there were 40, 50-year-olds on them all the time, they're going to take care of it because they're adults for the most part.
Yeah, younger people for the most part, not to call any of you out, because I was that guy. Oh my God. I'm more than probably most of an idiot teenage kid.
You were bad.
Just dumb things. I don't know why this popped into my head, but I remember it. I might have been with you. Even when I was 21 years old.
You were a little punk.
We were walking down, we were drunk, leaving some apartment party or something. And there were these empty, the office jugs of water that you put onto the thing and you get your cup of water. It makes that big bubble noise. Somebody had put out 4 of their empty ones outside their apartment door, and I remember walking by and kicking them.
No.
Yeah. What an
why?
asshole.
Why?
Someone needed to open the door and punch me in the face. Because that's how I feel now. When I see people do dumb shit, I go, stop it. They need punched. To be knock this dumb stuff off. But
you seriously, though, are unrecognizable in the person you are today versus 10 years ago. It's insane. I get people change, but you have had the most growth, I think, in anyone that I know in 10 years.
Well, my mindset changed.
Doesn't always happen, though.
No, some people get stuck in that rut and they never grow up.
You could still be an asshole.
Yeah.
Kicking those big water jugs.
Why? It seemed fun to do.
You were probably just drunk and not care in the world.
But that's what people are doing. I mean, and I don't know how many adults are driving around on those, but it's getting people around. But then there's a lot of rules with the bird scooters that you can't drive them on and I don't want to drive them. I'm scared to drive bikes here in LA. They have a bike path where people parallel park. I drive and people swing their door open as if they own the street.
Yeah.
I go, don't you look?
Yep.
Don't you look and look out and go, can I even open my door right now without getting it ripped off by a vehicle? Other people just kick it open, step right out. You're going to clip somebody on a bicycle, and or if a car just is swerving a little and get taken out.
I know. It's big city. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would always teach us when we were running to run on the side of traffic, oncoming traffic, so you can see, because you can't trust people behind you. They might not see you. They might just say, that's so Rick.
Yeah. He's always
no one.
Trust no one. What was the thing that he goes, yeah, but does a human do it?
It was the IVs, I think.
Yeah. We were like, oh yeah, you can get IVs if you're feeling like sick, or if you're hungover, you can have a banana bag come to your, or a nurse bring a banana bag, hook you up, get your fluids. And he's like, I wouldn't trust it. And I'm like, well, he's like, are there humans that are behind it? I was like, yeah, but they wear gloves. They have good ratings.
Oh my gosh, he's lived life. He just celebrated his birthday yesterday.
Yeah, I turned 70.
I know.
He's a fit, in shape.
He's insane.
On the move.
Aspire to be him. He just crushes it. He FaceTimed me today with the TV that we all got him.
Yeah.
He was watching the game, and he was just so happy, loving life. And he's like, okay, you'll be home later? I'll FaceTime you later, because he wanted to watch it. Everyone's loving the game. I don't even know who's playing.
I don't know.
Literally, I have not one guess.
No.
I'm that in the dark.
No.
The Rams?
I'll watch the Super Bowl just because it's more of a pop culture type thing. You kind of, it's smart, especially with what we're doing too. If we're going to be commenting on, you got to talk about the commercials and
Oh, that's fun. Like a fun part though about Super Bowl.
And I love a good
commercials.
game.
Yeah.
Like I watched
true.
when my dad was here. We watched the Ohio State and whoever the hell they were playing. I forget. They lost, but it was a good game.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a complete escape, and it's sometimes hard for me to just escape for 3 hours when I know I can watch a Joe Rogan podcast or Gary Vee or Grant Cardone or something in the news
Who were you
or
watching this
something.
morning when I caught you in your robe?
Uncle Dave.
Uncle Dave.
Dave Ramsey.
That's all right.
Yeah. And I'll just like, even when I do my walks for like an hour, I'll listen to maybe one or two songs because I like feeling like the hip hop
of
vibe.
course.
But then I'll find a podcast or I'll listen to like, because Dave Ramsey has like 5-minute clips to 9-minute clips, and it'll just play. And he cuts his like 3-hour show, kind of how we do, into clips. But it's giving advice to callers who are like, my 65-year-old mother moved in with me and she's mooching and I can't get her out or help pay the bills. What do I do, Dave? Or, I'm $1 million in debt. What do I do? Or should I pay my house off or should I invest? So I'm hearing real life scenarios so that if we're ever in a position where, like this woman today, or this guy today was like, they had a lot of money in mutual funds and they owed about $160,000 on their home. And he goes, do we take out what out of our mutual funds and pay this house off, or do we let it ride because we want the compound interest to keep growing? So I was like, that's a really good thing. And he kind of described it in different ways, and I won't go over the whole video. That's his video. But I like knowing that I'll think of that because numbers for some reason stick with me. So I'll remember in these positions what to do. So I'm just like gathering and learning. But all this stuff is my entertainment. So for me to sit and watch a football game, it's pure zero value other than entertainment. I'm entertained by listening to Dave. I'm entertained by listening to Gary or Joe Rogan, but I'm learning about anti-aging of the body and cells on Joe Rogan for 2 hours. So I'm entertained, but now I have a new perspective, and I'm kind of like, so every now and then I watch the World Series. So I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But my escapism is, like, what do we do? I watch
like
Netflix and
Like
reality.
if we're escaping, I feel it's more to watch a movie, television show than to watch sports. However, when I was younger, I used to love watching sports. I was a huge Lakers fan. I would watch,
it's fun.
I mean, it's so much fun, but if you do it, it's all or nothing. You have to be in and rooting for someone and following the whole season.
Yeah.
Or like to catch a game here and there, like why? You got to be, your mindset's got to be like, oh, we're doing the sports this year.
Yeah.
And we haven't really done that. I'm just more like trash TV.
Yeah, maybe this year we'll do like March Madness with the college basketball and then the NBA playoffs. I kind of like that. Like baseball's kind of cool, but it's a little.
Yeah, I've never been into baseball really. It's always been basketball. I did like watching football when I was younger. Like actually going to high school football games. I thought it was so much fun being there into the game. Like the energies is so great. I think it's a great game, but things change when you get older and you have so much going on.
I really, I wish I would have played football, but maybe better I didn't. But
yeah, why didn't you ever decide to do that?
Because you had to cut into your summer break.
You're like, I don't think so.
I don't like doing extra stuff. Like that's not, like I just never wanted to do it.
But you were a pitcher. You did baseball. You were a real good pitcher.
Yeah, but that wasn't taken out of my. Like, they did 2-a-days. I had to get up early for, like, all of August from, like, 8 to 2 and go. I'm like, no.
Like, I don't think so.
No, I don't want to do that. So, there was only a few of us. Funny enough, I was going to say me, my buddy Poopy, and Jim were, like, the only 3 people that didn't play, and all of our friends played. I actually, Poopy was in my dream. I was back in Ashtabula in some dream. I don't remember what was going on, but I saw him in the dream. We kind of, like, talked for a bit, but now I forget what we talked about. I was like, what made me...
Why does your brain go back there? Random people... the weirdest thing about dreams is when there's someone in the dream that you don't know in life, and it's like some fake person that your brain made up.
Supposedly you have seen that person in life, you just don't remember it.
Oh, that's...
You don't create someone that you've seen them. It could have been a cashier for 30 seconds and you don't remember, but in your brain does, and you put it in a dream or something.
But isn't that unreal?
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy. Our brains are so complex. There's so much that we don't know about how it works, and that's just, I don't know.
You know what? Because Joe Rogan makes me want to try like some sort of psychedelics in a controlled way, because there's just so many good experiences with it. Now, if you go to an LA nightclub and tap strangers for some DMT or some shrooms or whatever, not a good idea. But if there was some...
See, I don't think I could ever do that. Or
ayahuasca, and what country is that?
I've heard about that.
But I guess it's terrible. But I think depending on what's going on in your life, like I think if... Like, I don't have, like, a tortured past that I haven't, that I've suppressed. But some people need to sit there for 3 hours in this alternate universe where they just say they've just cried for 4 hours straight because they just had so much pain and suffering that they needed to get out that they've been suppressing, which I think is helpful. People, I mean, that sounds terrible, but maybe that's what they need.
And they were just like, my mind, my life just completely... I actually know quite a few people who've done it. I just am such a control freak. I don't think I could ever just let go, and maybe that's my problem. Maybe I do need it, but it freaks me out.
Depends on who you're with.
That too, but I just don't like not being in control. Like if my body's going to do something weird and I'm having like a panic attack while it's happening, that just stresses me out. And I can't stop it. I don't have control over it. That freaks me out.
Yeah.
It just, oh my God, thinking about it.
I would be interesting. I just really hope, just because I feel like I have everything like sorted. It's kind of like I had this
this is a fun
brilliant
experience.
Library that I feel like I was born with. Like I feel like I like have, like I'm a smart guy.
Yeah.
And I had this library, but I didn't know where to put all the books. And as I gotten older, I go, oh. And so I started cleaning up and putting things in order. And I just hope that if I were to ever try like mushrooms or something, that it would enhance that and it wouldn't like mess up my organization or something. Because I feel like I'm really on track.
An earthquake and all your books fall off the shelf.
And then I come back from the trip and I'm just like a different person. That'd be my only fear, but I don't think that happens. I think if you get it if it's laced, but if it's some way to get it in a way that it's controlled, that you know it's pure, that you know you're using it in the right dose to
I think it's kind of enlightenment, and to really figure out what in your life you need to focus on or whatever it is to be whole and center and happy. So
so that would be really interesting. But we're not at that point where we can ask Joe Rogan in person, like, yo, where do you get the good stuff that's safe? Because I don't think someone like him or you know what I mean?
No.
Like you can't just go ask random people for random drugs.
But what also stresses me out about that, he loves it, but he's also loves weed. I don't.
Yeah.
Yet again, it's that whole control thing. When I'm out of control and I can't be like, oh, how do I stop this high? Like I don't like it. But so many people do, and I always feel like there's something really big that I'm like, what am I missing out on? Like so many musicians, actors, people are like, I'm so creative, I can write, but I just like I don't know, it just doesn't work for me.
I think it's just the tolerance. I think people who don't drink often and they have 3 martinis and they just have a terrible time, I think that's the same how we are. I just think we have 0 like smoking tolerance. So
yeah, could be.
You almost have to like smoke your way through like the shitty part maybe. I don't know if any enthusiasts are here, but I just don't want, we tried many times and it just doesn't work. I don't like being, like some people are like, oh, I'm all creative and ready. I'm like, I don't feel that. And I take we've taken the indica at night. We've taken the sativa during the day. We've tried edibles and it doesn't.
Edibles were okay. Like I remember if I had to pick one part of it that I liked the best.
The sativa edibles.
Yes.
It kind of helped your focus a little. But
I would work a lot when I was doing.
But it doesn't have the punch as like ripping like a shot or having
ripping a shot.
Or having no, but that right there, like if I were to have like not even beer, like beer puts you in like a happy kind of like
a calm.
But if you were to like rip 2 vodka shots or have a strong martini, even if it's during the day, that high would make me more social. I can write, be creative, but weed doesn't do that. It doesn't make me more social. It makes me...
well, for me, the thing with weed is I get really in my head and I'll overthink everything, like everything I'm about to say. And I'm not like that in life. If I have something to say, I say it,
Yeah.
But for some reason, when I'm high, I'm like, wait a minute, do I really want to say that? Is that, like, you question everything and it's the weirdest...
Yeah.
strangest thing, and I was like, I don't like that. No thanks.
And people say too, like, oh, you don't have a hangover. I'm like, the times that I don't have a hangover, but you feel I woke up and go, I smoked weed. There's
Yeah.
nothing like sobriety.
It's the best. It's the best.
You don't have those high spikes of fun,
But you're natural.
but when you're clean, like even these past 12 days, we're like, we're not going to drink, we're not going to do anything. Like we want to just like take, I don't know, a month and maybe 2, 3, 4, I don't know, whatever. But you sleep like a rock. You have,
It's the best.
you don't spend like it. You're
Don't
just,
spend money.
and there is
you don't eat bad food.
No.
There's just no point. Because there's nothing like if you wake up on a Sunday and you're hungover, if you went out Saturday and you're like, I'm going to get like McDonald's breakfast. Like there's nothing like having that like carb-filled food to supposedly absorb the alcohol. And it makes you feel better for like 1 second and then you feel sick again. But I don't get that when I'm not drinking.
No, you operate almost, it gives you an artificial high for a long period of time. Like we even had some good news a couple days ago where I was like so excited in the kitchen. I was like, this is such good news. And it lasted for 5 minutes. And then I came back down to even. When you drink, or I'm sure with other drugs too, you're at a high level of that excitement for 6 hours. And you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
But then unfortunately, in order for that to balance out, you have to go below the even keel, down below, where you spent money, you're bloated, you're sick, you're headache, you're dehydrated, you're depressed, like the ebb and flow. But if you're just live a sober life, you kind of just live on the surface like a boat in the water. You're just like, just up and down, a little happy, a little sad, but most of the time you're just even keeled and you're in a good place and there's not those highs and lows.
But that's the argument of moderation too, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting when people drink, because some people, like I'll know different people in my past who, if they were drinking, like there's no stopping them. Like the second they have that like first drink, like they're going hard all night, they're going to black out. And that's like really bad, but you know, people like that. There's some people I know that'll have one beer and they're like, I'm good. So it's just knowing like how you are when you drink or smoke weed, or I feel like that's a little bit different, but
they still haven't legalized it federally.
I know.
But in all the states, I think there's like 30 states now that have it. And then they're talking about mushrooms, legalizing those too. I think they are legal in Northern California and maybe Colorado. I'd have to look that up. But people are starting to become more acceptive. They're accepting it more.
But the thing I will say about the actual plant itself, the wonders it's done CBD-wise, I love that part of it. Like, it's helped me so much. I might not like to, like, get high or whatever, but, like, that rub I use and stuff, like, it really helps.
Yeah, well, they're seeing the
CBD
benefits right now of all that.
For him, for his epilepsy.
Those are the marketing arguments for it. And I forget the story, but there was, you know what it was? And yet again, this is why Rogan has the TV, and they always cross-check these so that people aren't like. But
we have a TV.
I know we should hook it up. But whatever the year was, I forget the year, where I guess marijuana wasn't considered a what's it called? Where it's categorized with heroin and
got it. A class,
like something,
yeah.
But I guess what was happening is that marijuana was also creating hemp, and there was some huge company that hemp was not even the drug itself, like the thing that gets you high, but what they were making out of it was creating a problem and competition for somebody in another corporation. So that corporation spent all this money to tarnish and try to get a Schedule 1, I think it's called.
Schedule
1. So I'd love to relook up that story. We need to start doing that, because if we're going to talk about this kind of stuff, I want to make sure I get those stories, because they're interesting, but I don't always remember every detail. But the more and more you start looking into things, saw that, yet again, another podcast, where how they're not labeling the Mexican drug cartel as terrorists. Because if they were labeled as terrorists, people seeking asylum would be able to get in. If they're cartel, you can't say you're running from the cartel, doesn't count as asylum. But then if they're labeled as terrorists, which this gentleman was saying they eventually will, and that's when it'll become an issue where these cartel who are coming into the country, now it'll be a terrorist thing where the United States government will have to step in eventually. And he was saying within 5 years, because of how many drugs are coming over. And that's why the argument, even what Andrew Yang says about legalizing some of the drugs, not only to get people who are not offenders out of prison or nonviolent, but also it'll stop the drug trade as much. If you made it legal, like people think, like even if they made heroin legal, not that I'm saying anyone's trying to do that, but even if they sold it at 7-Eleven, I'm not going to go do heroin.
A lot of people would, though.
But I don't think they would.
Just the ones, I guess, who already.
But if it was all regulated, they always said what it would do for taxes. If every drug was regulated, but it would stop any. Because why would you ever buy heroin from some random dude on the street corner at 2:30 in the morning when you can have Postmates bring it? There'd be no. It would get rid of all illegal drug.
Yeah,
it would
but
cut down
like
on gangs.
Heroin, that is an intense, crazy drug that ruins people. It takes that one kid who's 18 who's like, oh, I can get this Postmated, and then they do it with their friends, and then
they're hooked and they ruin their life. Yes,
yeah.
But there's always going to be the ebb and flow of this. But what's the other thing? Think of how many people are dying in gang wars of selling drugs. How many people are dying? Like, you'd have to look and see. And that's why you spend time on the education, on the money that you would save, on educating kids, helping them not be lonely, not have depression, figure out what's going on with their brain so that they don't feel the need to escape at 18 and go try heroin, but to have financial education, emotional intelligence, moving in the right direction in life so they don't ever want to mess their life up by trying heroin or cocaine. Or if they do it,
2024.
Or if they do it, it's in a controlled environment where you're not abusing it.
Yeah.
And yet people want to talk crap on all these other drugs when yet alcohol is responsible for so many deaths.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about here? But it's all political. It's all marketing. Every single thing that we're seeing, everything that we believe, somebody marketed the idea and sold us on it.
Yeah.
When you watch the Democratic debates, it is just people marketing their ideas and trying to sell as many people on their vision.
Yeah.
Whoever markets better wins.
But isn't it crazy, though, that at one point Prohibition was a thing and they had speakeasies where that's where you could go? Because I guess there was a law that right before it all went through that if you purchased it, it didn't matter if you had it in your bar or whatever it was, you could still technically sell it, but you couldn't continue buying more. I think that's how it went. Didn't we talk about that?
We did, but I'm trying to look up right now why did Prohibition end?
Huh. I don't know.
Why did it fail? Let's see what this article says.
Because once we got into the... What?
This is the first article that pops up. It says, Prohibition ultimately failed because at least half of the adult population wanted to carry on drinking. Consumption. I mean...
Well, but then they had the Roaring 20s, and eventually everything was great and wonderful. I mean, what year did it end? The more you know. See, this is why we need a TV, so we can be looking at it.
I mean, as long as we explain it. I think it says on December 5th, 1933, the 21st Amendment was ratified, repealing Prohibition and ending the 13-year experiment in legislation.
Wait, Prohibition ended in 1933? Oh, going into the Great Depression.
If this is correct.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 13 years. Wowzers. So that's what I'm saying. Why don't they try? And yes, this is all very complex things we're talking about, but they could try different, and they shouldn't start with heroin. They're doing it right. They're starting with marijuana.
Right.
Start getting mushrooms involved, and maybe that'll all be legal in 5 years. And if people are acting like responsible adults, it's great for the tax money. It's helping people.
See.
We need it.
I'll see.
I would try it if I could go to if I would go and get mushrooms if I could go into a federally regulated
but I don't want
pharmacy.
Everyone on mushrooms that I'm coming into contact on the street. Because not everyone's
people
gonna
aren't
be
drunk on the street
not
either.
Everyone's going to be responsible. You got to realize
There's alcohol. People aren't responsible with alcohol. There's no difference.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who do you go outside right now? Who's drunk?
It's what, Sunday and there's football? I guarantee you I could go to some specific blocks.
People are drunk at home on this, but I'm saying if you go out an average Tuesday at 2:15 in the afternoon and everyone at the mall, no one's drunk.
Well, they don't sell alcohol at the mall.
They don't sell shrooms at the mall either. You would go do shrooms while watching a football game.
Oh my gosh. I don't think people are going to want to do shrooms and watch football. You want to do shrooms so you can have an experience, correct?
I don't know. I've never done shrooms.
We need a shroom expert on here.
I know. I'm trying to learn about it.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it's really crazy too. There, have you seen that article about this Arizona senator? What's her name? She is introducing a bill that would ban sex ed in elementary and middle schools.
I did hear about that.
What's her name?
I don't remember.
Kristen Cinema? No.
Do you remember sex ed or your experience hearing about that?
Sylvia Allen.
Her name's Sylvia Allen?
I think so. I'm bad at this. You're the researcher.
I know.
I don't remember. The only thing I remember about sex, well, I definitely don't remember it in middle school. Did we have it in middle school or in elementary?
I had it in 5th grade. I remember.
In 5th grade?
5th grade.
How old were you?
I mean, what age is that? 10? 11?
Did we know how to comprehend?
I mean, I knew what was going on. I guess at our school, you had to have a permission slip signed by your parents to make sure you could do this class. And my parents obviously signed it. And I actually had some friends who theirs were like, no, we don't want that. And so we left our classroom. I was in Mrs. Hayes' class. And we walked down in single file line to this other classroom. And they sat us down. And they played this video. And it kind of explained some stuff. Explained STDs.
I'm sure the acting in it was phenomenal.
I'm sure it was fan-freaking-tastic. And that was just kind of it. And a lot of times in movies they have like the bananas and they put a condom on. Like, I don't remember anything like that. I don't think I ever was in a class with that. But I knew what sex was before. My mom sat my sister and I down.
But you remember for the very first time understanding that, oh, the pee-pee and the hoo-hoo.
Pee-pee and the hoo-hoo. I just remember sitting on my mom's bed and she was kind of telling us and I kind of had an idea, but she explained it and I go, oh. And that's it. I didn't understand that, you know, adults got pleasure from this act. I didn't understand that part of it, but I was just like, oh, to make a baby, it takes 2 people. That's what I essentially got from it. And then we had that class at school, and then of course you talk with your friends, and then there are always the people who give you a little more information than your little naive brain needs to know or hear. You know, they're always the experienced ones.
Yeah, I don't remember I don't remember elementary school at all, let alone if they taught sex ed. I don't remember having the talk.
So do you remember a class in middle school?
In high school, I remember. The only thing I remember in high school was that they had some sort of like there's like 20 of us in the class and they put 10 people on one side, 10 people on the other. And they gave us like these liquids. And then in 3 of the cups, they put like this dye that was like clear. But if it's mixed with the wrong thing, it'll turn pink. And they were basically showing us how STDs spread. Mm-hmm. So you had to go and like switch cups with people and pour and mix. And then we all went back in line. And then like the 3 people who had it gave it to like 4 other people. And theirs turned purple. So they were just showing if you hook up with people and you're unprotected that you can get STDs. And I remember seeing one video where there was this woman giving birth and it was extremely graphic. It was extremely graphic. And I remember all the people were just making fun because like she wasn't very like groomed. And that was all people got from it. It was intense and it was just this woman's like vagina on the screen and everyone's just like, but that was when we were like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
But I'm not around 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds to understand what we're talking about, to even fathom, is a 9-year-old capable of I mean, obviously they're capable, but I'm saying to teach them.
I think it's just understanding.
They don't know about the pleasure part, maybe.
Exactly.
It's just explaining that this is what these are for, and then later they go, oh, wait a minute, you can have pleasure from this.
Yep. Because I don't think I truly understood the like biology of it, if you will. Like I was just like, oh, there are 2 adults and they get together. I didn't really understand the first time I had a conversation about it. You know, your brain just trying to go, oh, two adults get together and that's that.
Yeah.
You know, I think over time, you learn naturally.
I think mine trickled down, like, once we got into, like, 7th or 8th grade was, like, my buddies' older brothers were telling them about it, and it would get around, and then people started having sex in, like, 7th or 8th grade. Like, there was, like, a group of people. And so I went from, like, I don't think ever really thinking about sex, not having a first kiss, to, like, having my first kiss at 13 and then losing my virginity at 14.
Dang.
Like, all within
You were
a year.
A quick one.
I, like,
you went
never,
quick.
I was, like, was never at the baseball park, but then I stepped up to home plate, and within 1 year hit first, second, third, and home.
Oh my gosh. I stood
It was
on
my
first
8th grade
base
summer.
until high school, and then I got a home run when I was 18 with my first serious boyfriend.
Classy.
But we were so different in high school. I mean, I was a really good girl. I was so focused on my studies and extracurricular, and just when I was like dancing and singing, you were just hanging out with chicks.
I was just playing sports and, like, yeah, hanging out. Well, I had a couple serious girlfriends, like, so it was, you know, but yeah, it was. I don't know how I don't know when I learned about it.
I had a lot of friends though who lost their virginity around like 15 years old, going into high school or high school. Like,
do you know how I remember though how nervous that I was about every base?
Yeah.
Because you don't know, and there wasn't as available pornography, which is not a good educational tool, but that's what I also think is interesting with kids these days. If you have an iPhone and that 11-year-old has a friend who's 12, whose brother is 17, you don't think they're looking at porn on their cell phone, which is not a good education for kids to learn how, because it's so unrealistic.
Right.
But that wasn't available to us. Like, we would look at magazines, or there'd be pictures on the internet that I remember specifically.
Oh my gosh.
The photo of just like a girl with her shirt off would load so slowly.
Of course.
I remember it being like her forehead, her eyes, her nose, and it would load so slowly on like a dial-up. So we kind of all had to talk and figure it out firsthand, where I feel there's a lot of stuff you can Google now, like how to have sex or whatever it may be. Even if you're 15, 16, you have resources that I feel we didn't have. And I just remember being so nervous, and it was such a big deal on, like, especially for a man, and that still happens today. I think for a lot of people, is the performance meant so much.
Sure.
And it was such a big deal.
Of
Where
course.
now, as you're an adult, you kind of have an understanding of, like, if you last a minute, if something happens,
matter.
it's not. It was embarrassing when you were
at
younger.
that age, everything.
And then everyone would talk about it.
Well, but that's what's interesting too. There are all these social cliques, and if a guy didn't perform well, they're gonna tell their friends, and then their friends are gonna go, "Oh God."
Yeah.
It's just social cliques. Like, who freaking cares?
But that was the biggest deal.
It was everything.
It was.
You know, it's so sad and funny to me thinking about how times have changed. When you were trying to like download that one photo online, I was really curious, and my mom, you know, she was a registered nurse. She had all these books, and I was very open with her, and I like asked her to show me some stuff in her textbooks, and so I would sit and look through them so I could see what stuff looked like.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I was curious. And she's like, well, I'd rather you be educated here than,
Yeah.
you know, out in real life.
I think that's, you know, what, if I could imagine with having a kid, is that the number one thing is that you'd want to teach, and this is why, and I'm not hating on porn, but
Yeah.
looking at the pros and cons of it, like, there's obviously good things. It's a huge industry and fun. But then there's also, if someone young doesn't understand the context, there was even like a study and a TED Talk done about that, where people, if a 12-year-old thinks this is how you treat women, it's like, that's not where you should learn. So I think if we had and I think teaching a daughter or a son would be so different. And I don't know why, but it just is.
Yeah. But you know what's crazy? Back when we were growing up, the only like sex you could see were these sex scenes that they would make in movies. Like, there's this one movie called Shag I would always watch with my sister, and one of the girls meets this guy during her summer, and there's a very G-rated sex scene, and anytime it would come up, my sister's like, you have to hide your face, and so I put the blanket on my head, but then I'd like...
It was a real movie.
It's a real movie.
So that wasn't X-rated.
No, but I'm saying at that time, if you're like 13 years old and you're curious to see what a sex scene is like, you're not going to go to a store and sit and watch an X-rated movie in the back. Like, you're not going to do that at 13. No. Now we have the internet, so if kids are curious, they can find something in a second.
But it's not realistic.
It's not realistic, but I mean, nothing ever is. But I'm just saying, back then, if you wanted to see sex, you put on a movie, it's G-rated. You're not, like, really seeing it happen.
R, yeah.
But you're like, ooh, there's kissing involved. Ooh, they're passionate.
Oh, to see what they're doing, but you don't see what's happening. But
yeah, but now with porn, it's like people see all this stuff, and they're like, my gosh, what am I supposed to do?
But that's why they need better education, because you need to know how to respect each other. You need to know each other's boundaries, obviously.
What each person likes, what everyone's comfortable with.
And teaching them about the spreading of STDs, early pregnancies, the consequences of that. The pull-out method is not birth control. So it's like, it'd be really interesting. Like, I gotta say, that's one of the more, like, I bet you people are interested in teaching their kids. I would just be interested to get in these moments, because I remember myself as a kid, and I remember how awkward I felt, of like, but how we would teach our kids at 12 or 13 about these topics. But I think it would depend on the kid's personality.
Sure.
Some might be like not even ready. Others, you're just like, where'd you learn all this stuff? Like, you seem like I need to sit you down and tell you about this,
But now with the internet, kids can learn anything in 5 seconds.
Yeah. But I think all the emotional stuff is what's becoming more important. I think it's so funny that if someone punches a kid in school and they get suspended, but if you call someone a name or ugly or stupid or fat, they just get, hey, knock that off. But the ugly, stupid, fat, big nose, big ears comments will stick with them for life, where a black eye will heal in 3 days. And it's so funny, even with sex, like, how much are they teaching people about the emotional portion of it, like of people feeling like used if you don't call back, or like breaking up. Like, I think there's a lot of emotional education that kids should be taught about as well.
That's interesting.
Of how to treat people with respect. And but I don't know. I think I've seen 2 different articles where they're saying millennials are having less sex, but then I saw a documentary where, like, people are just rampant with sex. Like, I'm curious to see the numbers of that.
I've heard more that they're having less, and that wouldn't surprise me, just because there's so much stimulation at fingertips, in the sense of, you have your phone, you're more interested in this, like, if we went on a dating app right now, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people in the area that are on here that are looking to hang out. That's why people can't date anymore. That's why
but people are hooking up, probably.
Of course.
So I'm just curious
But people will hook up,
if there's more or less
and from
sex.
Like, all of my single friends, I've heard so many stories about, they'll talk to this person, they'll get to know them, they'll go out on a date, maybe 2, and the second that they hook up, it's done. It's on to the next. And this isn't like a new story. You've heard about this for as long as you can remember. A lot of times I feel like it's like that Drake, what's that Drake lyric? Because one time is fine with me. Yeah. Like, I think men are just developed in a different way. That's fine with them. They just want to hook up once and then move on. Women aren't really like that as much.
I think it all depends on the statistics. It depends on which people you're asking, at what age, at what time. Like, there's a lot of women that just want to have casual sex, a lot of guys, and a lot of guys that want to look for romance and don't want to do that. There's guys on apps that are like, I just want to find someone to love, and like, I'm just seeing all these thotties that aren't into it. They just want to like hook up and like climb the social ladder. There's like all different groups. Like, there's.
That's true.
I think it's hard to label
one specific, pigeonhole them.
Yeah, it's just in our society, it's you for some reason think guys are dogs and they have to rescue the girls, like the narrative that's always been like taught, or not taught, but in society. But I think the more there's just all different groups of women. There are the thotties who are social climbers. There are the people who just want to have fun, casual sex, who are professionals. There are people who are just like, I want to wait till marriage. There are people who are like, I just want to like date and whatever it may be. I think it's just a vast thing.
Everyone's different.
But I'm curious about the younger generation, like,
And what they're like, because their personalities could be so different.
if people are losing, because I know in my area where I grew up, like, losing your virginity at 13, 14, 15 was not uncommon.
Yeah.
But when I look at it now and I go, how old is this person? They're like 13, 14. I'm like, they're
That's what
14. I was
stresses me out.
14.
I know, when you look at young kids
That's
today,
a baby.
and you're like, it's a what?
A baby.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
The only thing I remember about my first time too, which is interesting, is I went to the mall and I bought for $1 a mall bathroom condom that was in this little, it looks like it was in a, like, you know when you buy those AAA batteries, those real little tiny boxes?
Mm-hmm.
But it was wrapped in cellophane. And I remember hiding it from my parents, and it was in my entertainment center under my Game Boy where you would keep games. So I remember me and my girlfriend were like on the bed, and I had to, like, we were in the moment, 14, but ran to the entertainment center, had to open up the Game Boy, had to then try to struggle with the cellophane to get the condom out. But I don't remember the actual event.
The act of it. So, do you remember this when you guys, like, did you guys know that you were going to try it and that this was it? Or did it just happen? Like,
I don't know. I mean, obviously, because I had a condom, because I think
you knew
the
it was
girl,
coming.
Yeah, there was a girl I was dating prior that I think we did talk about it. And there was an actual moment. It was on a Saturday where we were planning it. Mm-hmm. And my parents were going to be at a reverse raffle. They were going to be out of the house, and she was going to come over. But then we broke up on, like, the Thursday before the planned Saturday. So it never happened.
Aww.
And then I don't know the timetable of that. But then I think, like, 4 or 5 months later, when I was dating somebody else, I don't know if we talked about it or what.
Do you remember, because you were so young, this is why I'm just trying to think, do you remember kissing before it happened? Like, were you guys warming up to get into it? Or was it like, this is just happening? Like, I'm just so curious.
I don't know. We definitely didn't skip the bases. So it was like everything, I believe, was leading up to that over the course of a couple months. But I don't remember.
That's interesting.
And then everything in between was like random. But yeah, because I think you told me you had more of a traditional, like, lovely, like, parents would be proud.
Yeah. It's the perfect way to lose it if you got to lose it.
Yeah.
You know, like, dated for a long time, respectful, passionate. And then we watched The Hills after.
Oh my God.
Oh my Lord. But it was, you know, I don't know what your parents would want if you're ever gonna.
I don't know. That whole chapter of being parents is going to be
I can't imagine.
Wild.
Yeah.
And we also, you know, we grew up in the 90s. Our teenage kids, let's say we have a kid in the next 2 to 5 years, so that's 20 years from now. So essentially they'll be growing up as teenagers in the 40s.
So weird. That's so weird.
So that's going to be so different. We grew up in the 90s as teenagers. They'll grow up in the 40s.
That's insane.
So who knows what's going to be going on. And things might change, because if there's a way that they eradicate all STDs, that'll be a different conversation. If they have a different form of birth control that gets better, if we end up evolving to a thing where people don't carry kids, that's more of the old school way and natural way of doing it, where now people just put it,
that would be I mean, eventually
I see it. I already see the ad coming, where you download the app, there's a little camera on your little chamber where the egg and the sperm are together, and you get to watch your little baby grow inside this thing, inside this device, and you get to look at the app and go, look, babe,
I think that's going to be way later.
Look at it. And then you finally, it's like time, and then you get, like, your baby
60 years.
And
it's gonna be a ways away.
And then people will be at dinner parties and they'll be like, you carried your baby inside you?
People get the scarlet letter, like, oh my God, how could you do that naturally?
Well, there's
Look at us
the
go
sad.
with our
Well, no,
imaginations.
because there's people talk about all this stuff, and like it's like if things continue the way they're continuing and you follow the patterns, essentially, if that were to be the case, being able to not do it inside your body and have to carry a child for 9 months, is that people in a higher class or higher society or people with money are going to be able to do it scientifically. That's going to cost $100,000 or $10,000 when it's,
that's what it will be.
And then people who unfortunately maybe are in poverty or don't have enough money are going to do it the natural way, which is going to create a stigma and continue to separate us.
Women have been having children naturally for years and years and years and years. So.
Yep. And they're getting, and it's amazing because there's like hardly no, I think there was a lot of children that died at birth like 100 years ago.
Oh, sure.
Now there's basically none.
It still happens.
Yeah. So we'll see, but anywho, let's get going because we got to go walk and get this exercise in.
What an app, huh?
Yeah.
Some interesting conversation.
Good way to start your week off, huh? But anyway, so we'll be back with more this week, and nothing to ask people to comment on below. That's all. No need to comment anything personal on this episode today. But if you do want to like the video, if you haven't subscribed, to do so. And on any video, just commenting anything really helps the YouTube algorithm for us and really helps support the channel. So if you want to take just 3 seconds to like, comment, and subscribe, it goes a long way.
Yes, it does.
So we appreciate you. Have a wonderful day and or week, depending on when you're watching this. And we will be back with another episode very soon.